Okay, so get this. We got this article, and it's all about this Elon Musk interview.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and it went super viral, right? But the thing is,
Oh.
it's portraying him like he's this total winner, you know? Like,
Yeah.
he just crushed it in some kind of debate smackdown.
Right, like some kind of ultimate champion.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think I saw that one.
Yeah.
It was something about him completely destroying, like that was, in all caps, some liberal TV host.
That's the one. But the way it's written is so over the top. It's like,
It is, yeah.
we have to break it down. You know, what's the real story here?
Definitely. It's interesting how they set it all up. I mean, even the title, right? It was all like, Elon Musk hilariously destroys liberal TV host on live, you know?
Oh, it's so dramatic. Like, come on, what are we, watching WrestleMania?
Totally. You know right away who they want you to root for.
Right. And the article goes on to say how Musk delivered this epic takedown,
Yeah.
but it's so vague on what actually happened in the interview itself.
Oh, totally.
Like, they mentioned at first it was all like your typical interview stuff, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
SpaceX, Tesla, that kind of stuff.
The usual.
Right. The Twitter acquisition, too,
That's
so
fine.
it sounds like it was pretty standard at first.
Yeah, yeah.
But then they talk about this turning point
Okay.
where the host starts bringing up all these controversial topics to, like, really challenge Musk.
So they say,
Yeah, but again, it's like so vague.
Right.
Give me some specifics, people.
Were they talking politics?
Yeah,
Or like, you know, those accusations about his business practices?
I know.
Or maybe it was like his taste in music.
Exactly. It could be anything.
I mean, who knows? But that's how they hook you, right?
Oh, for sure.
They dangle this explosive confrontation in front of you, but
But they don't give you any details.
exactly, it's all very strategic.
Right. And they're counting on people to just fill in the blanks.
Absolutely, like with their own assumptions, you know?
Right.
Whatever they already think about Musk, that's what they picture.
Oh, for sure. It's like this Rorschach test.
It is, yeah.
For how people perceive him and like all the stuff he's involved in.
100%. And that's part of what makes it so fascinating.
Absolutely.
Because you can see how this vagueness is like tailor-made to create this image of Musk as the underdog
You're so right.
going up against the, quote, liberal media.
It's like this classic David and Goliath story.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Which is,
He's the outsider fighting the system.
it's pretty ironic though, right? When you consider
Oh, totally.
how much power and influence Musk actually has.
Right. Like, he's not exactly some helpless victim.
He's not, no. But that narrative, the underdog thing,
Oh, it's powerful.
it's super powerful and it resonates with people.
And it plays right into this
Yeah.
whole trend we see in media today, you know,
For sure.
where it's all about creating these really compelling stories, but
Right.
they don't always, like, reflect the full reality of the situation.
Yeah, nuance kind of gets lost in the mix, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
It's all about, you know, crafting this easily digestible story.
It has to be dramatic.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter if it's like entirely accurate or not.
Well, okay, so we've got this, like, vague setup, right?
Right.
The promise of this huge controversy, and then, bam, they're talking about all this tension.
Oh, yeah.
And they're highlighting Musk's, like, sharp wit, like it was some kind of...
Right, like he was showing off, you know?
Exactly, like it was some perfectly choreographed
Totally.
duel or something,
Duel.
instead of just, like, you know, a natural, spontaneous conversation.
Right, right. I mean, how much of this was genuine debate
Yeah, exactly.
versus, you know, them both just playing to the audience?
Right, and you know what they say? Conflict sells.
Oh, absolutely.
If it was just some, like, calm, respectful,
Yeah.
back and forth, I mean, would it have gone viral?
Probably not, no.
You need that clash, you know?
Yeah, yeah. You need those personalities to really clash.
That's what gets people clicking and sharing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the question becomes, are we seeing a real intellectual showdown,
Right?
or is this just carefully staged to get a reaction?
Because this article, it's definitely playing up that whole Battle of the Titans angle.
Oh, yeah, it is.
They talk about this one critical comment the host makes
Oh, right.
about Musk's stance on free speech.
Okay.
And then Musk's, like, devastating response.
The knockout punch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That supposedly left the host, like, totally speechless.
Wow. But again, we're left wondering.
I know. What was actually said?
Like, what was the comment, you know?
I know. And what was the comeback?
Right.
And what even makes a response devastating in an interview like that, you know?
It's a good question.
What does that even mean?
I mean, it could be a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
Depending on, you know, the situation, the context.
Mhm.
It could be like, you know, really sharp, you know,
Yeah.
logically sound rebuttal.
Right. Or maybe he, like, cleverly used humor to
Right.
kind of, like, undermine the host's argument.
Definitely. Or it could be the opposite, right?
Oh, interesting.
Like a well-timed silence,
Oh, yeah.
where he doesn't even have to say anything.
Right. That can be super powerful.
Totally.
It's like they're giving us the Spark Notes version,
Oh, yeah.
but they left out, like, all the good stuff.
All the details, right.
Yeah.
The actual arguments themselves.
It's so frustrating.
But that's what keeps you reading, right? That curiosity, that wanting to fill in the blanks.
And we're left using our imagination.
Totally.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what makes this whole thing so intriguing.
It is.
It's like, it plays on our natural curiosity.
Yeah.
And we want to know the whole story, but
We only have half of it.
yeah. And it also highlights, how important media literacy is, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We can't just take these packaged narratives at face value.
No.
We have to be critical,
Right.
Look at the source, think about different perspectives, and be aware of what they're doing.
Yeah, all those techniques that are used to, like, shape our perceptions.
Right.
And at the end of the day, it's not about who won this, verbal sparring match. It's about understanding how these narratives work, how they play on our emotions, our biases,
Right.
and how to be more discerning
Yeah,
when it comes to the information we consume.
exactly. That's something we can all benefit from,
Oh, for sure.
regardless of how we feel about,
Yeah.
Elon Musk or any other, polarizing figure.
Right, this goes beyond just one person.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's about how we engage with media in general.
Exactly.
So with that in mind, let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and look at why this whole thing blew up online,
Right.
The article points to relatability, entertainment value,
Yeah.
and how the topics are super timely.
Right. So what are your thoughts on those explanations?
Well, the relatability thing is interesting because on the surface, it seems kind of strange, right?
You would think so.
How could someone like Elon Musk, who's like,
Yeah.
super rich and powerful,
Right.
be relatable to like the average person?
Exactly.
But I think it taps into this idea of him being like the rebel genius,
Oh,
He
yeah.
challenges the status quo.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to say what he thinks, even if it
Even if it rubs people the wrong way.
ruffles some feathers.
Yeah.
It's like people see that and they project their own desires onto him,
Uh-huh.
to be more authentic, to be more outspoken.
Right.
Even if, like, in reality,
Yeah.
Musk's actions don't always match up with those ideals,
For sure. And the entertainment value is pretty obvious.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we talked about that already. But
Yeah. Conflict and drama are just engaging,
yeah, that's why reality TV is so popular.
Exactly.
People love those takedown moments,
It gives you that rush.
Yeah, you get that sense of excitement.
It's like cathartic.
Yeah, totally. It's like a release.
Mm.
And then there's the timeliness aspect, right?
Oh, yeah.
Which ties into like the whole media landscape.
For sure.
We live in a world where like
Yeah.
information is constantly vying for our attention.
Uh-huh.
And algorithms, they push content that triggers strong emotions.
Right.
So a story that combines a polarizing figure like Musk
Yeah.
with, a hot button issue like free speech,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost guaranteed to go viral.
Right. It's the perfect recipe.
Yeah. It's the perfect storm,
Totally. All these elements come together.
to keep us scrolling and clicking.
Yeah, to keep us hooked.
Okay, so we've talked about, how the article frames the interview,
Yeah.
what might have actually been said,
Right.
and why this thing went viral.
Mm-hmm.
But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to go back to this idea of Musk being declared the winner.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, like, can you even win in a conversation like this?
exactly. What do you think?
I think it depends, right? Oh, yeah, how do you define winning?
Exactly. If the goal is just,
Yeah.
to score points, to like outwit your opponent,
Right.
and be the last one
The
standing,
verbal duel.
right, then maybe there is
Yeah.
a winner.
But is that really the point of having a conversation?
Good question.
Especially one about something this important,
Yeah,
like free speech.
right, because if you actually want to have
Yeah.
a productive dialogue, right,
Uh,
where you understand different perspectives
yeah.
and maybe even, change some minds,
Mm-hmm.
winning might look totally different.
Totally.
It might mean listening more than talking.
Yeah.
Acknowledging the other side's good points
Right.
and even admitting when you're wrong,
Totally.
which is a far cry from that, gladiator combat
Right.
that they're portraying in this article.
The epic takedown.
Yeah. So maybe the real winners are the ones who
Yeah.
are willing to engage in good faith, have their beliefs challenged and come out of the conversation
Yeah.
with a more nuanced understanding of the issue.
Even if it means conceding some points. Right.
Exactly.
That's a great point to think about.
It is, yeah.
And it looks like we're just about out of time for this part of our deep dive.
Oh, wow. Time flies.
It really does.
But don't worry, we'll pick up right where we left off next time.
Sounds good.
And we'll explore, some of the broader implications
Okay.
of these viral moments and how they shape how we see complex issues.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
It'll be good.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. So last time, remember, we were digging into this article about an Elon Musk interview.
Right, the one where he supposedly destroyed the host.
Yeah, that's the one.
Mhm.
And we spent a bunch of time trying to guess, like, what was actually said.
Oh, yeah, like what was that critical comment and what was Musk's devastating comeback.
Right.
But without the actual interview footage, it's like impossible to know for sure. Yeah, it's like we're missing half the puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
But I think even without those missing pieces, we can still learn something, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the article itself, even though it's vague, it shows how they use, all these rhetorical techniques to make their argument, to sway the audience.
Okay, so let's break down some of those strategies. One thing that stuck out to me was how they kept emphasizing the tension, like how much Musk and the host were clashing.
Right. Even though, again, we don't really know what they said to each other.
Yeah, it's like they're setting up a boxing match, right? Like they want the audience to be on the edge of their seats waiting for the knockout punch.
Exactly. And they definitely play up Musk's personality too, right? Like he's the sharp wit, the rebel genius.
Right, they're making him out to be like this underdog hero who's not afraid to speak truth to power.
Which is kind of funny when you think about it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Musk is incredibly powerful and influential himself.
Totally, but that's how good storytelling works, right?
Yeah.
They can make anyone seem like the underdog, even if they're like a billionaire CEO.
Oh, yeah, they're masters of spinning a narrative. They're presenting him as both a regular guy, someone you can relate to, and also this brilliant iconoclast.
Right. It's like they're trying to have it both ways.
Totally. So, yeah, we've got the drama, the hero narrative. What other tricks are they using?
Well, they use a lot of loaded language, right? Like destroy, epic takedown, devastating response. These words are meant to trigger an emotional reaction.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just a disagreement. It's a verbal smackdown. They're making it sound way more intense than it probably was.
Yeah. It's all about getting people riled up, getting those clicks and shares.
Exactly. They know what gets attention online. In
Yeah.
that sense, it's a really effective article, even if the substance isn't really there.
So it's not just about the interview itself. It's about how they package it, how they present it.
Yeah, they're selling us a story, right? A story about Elon Musk as the ultimate winner, the guy who can shut down any criticism with his wit and intelligence.
And that makes me think about how much the media shapes how we see the world, you know? Like if we're always getting fed these simplistic narratives, does that make it harder to understand the real issues?
That's a really important point, because in reality, things are almost never black and white, right? It's all shades of gray.
Yeah, but these stories make it seem like there are always clear winners and losers.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to be media literate, to understand how these narratives work, and to be aware of how they're trying to manipulate us.
So let's talk about that. What can our listeners do to become more media literate, especially with all these viral stories flying around?
Well, the first thing is always consider the source. Like, who is presenting this information? What are their biases, What are they trying to do? Inform you, persuade you, entertain you.
Yeah, because an article from like a reputable news source is going to be way different than something from like, a clickbait website.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But even with reputable sources, you got to watch out for subtle biases and how they frame the story. So try to get information from different places, different viewpoints, even if you don't agree with them.
Yeah, it's so easy to get trapped in an echo chamber where everyone's just saying the same thing.
Exactly. You got to break out of that and see what other people are saying.
What about the actual language they use? We talked about the loaded language in this article, but are there other warning signs we should be looking for?
Oh, definitely. Watch out for words that are really emotionally charged. Look for generalizations. And if they're oversimplifying things, and do they have actual evidence to back up what they're saying?
Don't just take their word for it.
Yeah. Be an active reader. Ask questions. Don't just passively absorb everything you see.
So basically, don't be afraid to think for yourself.
Exactly. Be critical. Be skeptical.
Okay, so we've talked about the framing, the media literacy thing, and all the tricks they use to create this narrative of Musk as the winner. But I want to zoom out a little. Why do you think these kinds of stories go viral in the first place? Why are we so drawn to these takedown moments?
I think it's a few things, honestly.
Yeah.
First, like we said, conflict is just naturally engaging. It makes us feel something, excited, mad, amused,
It's
whatever.
like watching a car crash. You can't look away.
Exactly. And then there's this need for simplicity. Like we want easy answers, good guys and bad guys, winners and losers.
Yeah, the world is complicated, and these stories make it seem less so.
Right. They give us this sense of order, even if it's not real. And then I think there's this social aspect, too. We want to talk about these stories, debate them, share them with our friends.
It's like they become these cultural moments that everyone's talking about.
Exactly. So it's not just about the information itself, it's about being part of the conversation.
Right, you don't want to be the only one who doesn't know what's going on.
Exactly. But that's why we need to be careful about what we consume and what we share.
Okay, so we've covered the framing, the rhetoric, how these stories go viral, but I think there's one more important thing to talk about, the impact.
Wow.
Like, beyond the clicks and shares, what's the real world effect of all this?
That's a great point. Because these things, they can be entertaining, but they can also have a real impact on how we see the world.
Okay, so let's dig into that a bit more.
Yeah.
What are some of the negative consequences we should be thinking about?
Well, for one thing, I think it can make our society even more divided. Like, if all we're seeing are these black and white stories, good versus evil, it's harder to find common ground.
It's like we're constantly being put on different teams.
Yeah. And it creates this constant feeling of outrage and negativity, like everything's a fight and it's exhausting.
Right, and I think it can make us more cynical, too. Like, if we're constantly being told that everyone's lying and manipulating us, then why should we trust anyone?
Exactly. It
Yeah.
can make us lose faith in institutions and experts, even in each other. And that makes it even harder to solve problems together.
So these viral moments, while entertaining, they might actually be making things worse in the long run.
That's definitely something to think about for sure.
Okay, so we've talked about the problem. Now, what are some ways to, like, mitigate these negative effects?
Well, I think being aware of your own biases is a big one. We all have them, and they influence how we interpret things. So try to be honest with yourself about what you already believe and be open to changing your mind.
Right, because if we're not aware of our biases, we just end up searching for information that confirms what we already think.
Exactly. And that's how you get stuck in those echo chambers we talked about.
So self-awareness is key. What else?
Make sure you're getting your information from different places.
Yeah.
Don't just rely on one news source or one social media platform. See what other people are saying, even if you don't like it.
Get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. Because the world is a lot bigger than your own little bubble.
Okay, so diversify your sources. Got it. Anything else?
Think before you share. Before you retweet or repost something, ask yourself, where did this come from? Is it accurate? What kind of impact is it going to have?
Because we all have a responsibility to, like, help create a better online environment.
Exactly. It's not just about you, it's about everyone.
Okay, so we've got self-awareness, diversifying our sources, and being mindful about what we share. Anything else?
I think it's also important to be skeptical, but not cynical. Question things, but don't assume everyone's out to get you.
Right. There's a difference between being critical and just being negative.
Exactly. And remember, there are real people behind these stories with their own experiences and motivations.
It's easy to forget that when you're just scrolling through your feed.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. We talked about the framing, the rhetoric, the impact, and how to be more media literate. I feel like we're just scratching the surface here, though.
That's what's so great about these deep dives, right? There's always more to explore, more questions to ask.
Exactly, and it's on all of us to be more informed and engaged. What do you think about all this? How do you deal with the online world?
Yeah, we want to hear from you. How do you stay informed without getting sucked into all the negativity?
Because ultimately, this is a conversation we need to be having together. All right, welcome back to our deep dive on this whole Elon Musk interview thing. So we've been talking about how this article is framing him as, like, the winner of this big debate.
Right. This epic takedown.
Yeah, exactly. And how that kind of framing, even if it grabs your attention,
Yeah.
it can really oversimplify these complex issues and make the online world, like, more divided.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's like we're so obsessed with figuring out, who won and who lost.
Yeah.
That we forget about having, real conversations, understanding different sides.
Exactly. And it brings up a big question, like,
What happens next?
yeah, what happens after all the buzz dies down? What's the lasting effect of all this? These stories that, like, take over our feeds.
Yeah, because it's easy to get, sucked into the drama, the excitement of it all.
Totally. But I think it's important to, like, take a step back
Absolutely.
and really think about the consequences, Like, what does this do in the long run?
Yeah, I agree. One thing is, I think these moments, these viral things, they can really distort how we see things.
Yeah.
In what way?
Well, like, if you're always bombarded with these stories about conflict, about someone getting destroyed, you start to think that's all there is.
Right, like that's the only way to interact with people.
Yeah, and you miss all the good stuff, the progress, the collaboration, the common ground that people actually share.
It's like we're trained to focus on the negative.
Totally. And that can be really contagious.
Oh, for sure.
It can make you feel cynical, apathetic, even hopeless, and then, it's hard to have good conversations.
Right, like why bother if it's all just a fight?
Yeah, and that's what makes it hard to, actually solve problems together. So basically, these viral moments, as fun as they can be, might actually be hurting us in the long run.
It's definitely a possibility we should be thinking about.
Okay, so we've talked about the problem. Now, what can we do about it? How do we, deal with these stories in a way that's not just critical, but also constructive?
Well, I think, honestly, the first thing is to just be aware of your own biases.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we all have them, right? And they totally affect how we see things, form opinions.
Yeah.
So you got to be honest with yourself, like, what do you already believe?
Yeah.
And be open to being wrong.
Right, because if we don't recognize our biases, we end up just looking for information that, confirms what we already think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's how you get stuck in those echo chambers.
Which we definitely don't want.
No, not at all.
Okay, self-awareness, check. What else?
Make sure you're getting information from lots of different places.
Oh, yeah, we were talking about that earlier, right?
Exactly. Don't just rely on one news source or one social media platform.
Yeah, because it's so easy to get stuck in your own little bubble.
Right. See what other people are saying even if you don't like it.
It's all about challenging your own perspective.
Exactly. That's how you get a more complete picture.
So diversify your sources. Got it. What else can we do?
Think before you share stuff online. Like before you hit that retweet or repost button.
Right.
Take a second. Ask yourself, where did this come from? Is it actually true? What's it going to do if I share this?
It's about being responsible, right? Not just adding to the noise.
Absolutely. It affects more than just you.
Okay, so we've got self-awareness, diversifying our sources, and being mindful of what we share online. Anything else we should keep in mind?
Oh, yeah. One more thing. Try to be skeptical, but not cynical. Question things, but don't assume everyone's lying or trying to trick you.
Right. It's like you can be critical without being totally negative.
Yeah, exactly. And always remember, there are real people behind these stories with their own lives and experiences.
It's easy to forget that sometimes, especially online. Okay, so we've covered a lot in this deep dive. We talked about how the article framed the whole interview, how these kinds of stories go viral and the effects they have, and most importantly, what we can do about it.
Yeah, how to be more aware, more critical.
Exactly. But ultimately, the point is, even though these things can be entertaining, we got to approach them with, a critical eye and a healthy dose of skepticism.
Absolutely. Because what we do online has real consequences,
Yeah, it shapes how we see the world and how we interact with each other.
For sure. So let's be more mindful, more thoughtful about the stories we're telling, both about ourselves and about others.
And let's keep asking questions, challenging what we think we know, and seeking out different perspectives. That's how we all learn and grow, right?
Exactly. And that's how we create a better world, both online and off.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.